Because some people might be put off by the sickly green color, we suggested they sample the stuff with their eyes closed.
And slime is erupting all over the universe.
Will Raphael be destroyed by the retro mutagen ooze?
I don't know.
He slimed me.
This thing rules. The thing rules.
Oh, hey, what's up? I'm Brian Altano.
And I'm Max Scoville.
This is a show where we discuss something we love,
Unpack why we love it,
explain where it came from,
try to remember our first impressions of it,
share our weird stories about it,
maybe learn something new about it along the way.
but first and foremost, we're here to celebrate the fact that this thing rules.
All right, it's slime time. Let's talk about slime. What the hell are you talking about? What kind of slime are we here to talk about today, Brian? What is that? What does that encompass? Anything
Yes.
that's between a liquid and a solid?
We have to define the parameters or whatever.
It's time to define the slime.
Okay, so we are specifically talking about slime as a toy, right? Like a plaything. We're gonna do our best to keep this PG-13, okay? Because there's a lot of slime out there. Let's start with the first slime ever, which was not really a plaything. Primordial ooze
We're going to start at the beginning.
Start at the beginning. So at the dawn of time, many believed that there was just a bunch of just wet shit all over the earth.
And they were right. And here we are today.
Right. And it came together and made slime, which created animals, and the animals became man, and man made slime, and women inherited slime from man. We'll get to that in a minute.
Okay. So wait. So I feel like we both grew up 80s, 90s. The obvious, one of the biggest, slime purveyors was Nickelodeon.
Yes.
Who repeatedly did things on television you're not supposed to do, which involve slime.
Yeah, so Nickelodeon introduced slime as sort of like a mechanism or a plaything or a punishment tool. At some point in the sort of like late 70s, early 80s, they had a TV show on called You Can't Do That on Television. And this was a little bit before my time, but I do remember catching reruns of it at one point growing up. And it was a sketch comedy show. Sort of like All That, in that it incorporated kids and adults, right? And so it wasn't just like watching SNL where everyone was old, or it wasn't just like watching. I'm trying to think. Have they ever met a sketch comedy show that was just kids? Like, I feel like there's always some adults there, right? Like there was like an Amanda Bynes one, and like
I want to say All That was the first.
Yeah, All That was up there.
The whole hook. Yeah.
Right. So this show had a bunch of grown-ups on it, and it had this like extremely weirdly like 1970s British animated intro that used a bunch of like what looked like cutout stuff like that. And they had these weird, gross characters. It was like Nickelodeon's first introduction to doing like just really weird, gross stuff. And they had this guy named Barf who ran a cafeteria there and would just make these disgusting burgers for kids. And like any kid who went to public school and knew the cafeteria situation was like, oh yeah, I know a guy like that. But there was a thing on the show where if you said, I don't know, in a specific spot on a specific set, and I don't know how much of this was scripted. I mean, I just said I don't know right there, right? So
yeah, we would be slimed.
We'd be slimed already. A bucket of green slime would drop from the ceiling, and Nickelodeon slime is weird because it is like first of all, it's become dozens of different things, right? Dozens of different products, but in the sort of like slop version that they dump on you on the show, it's not as sort of like gelatinous and viscous, I would say. It's a little like more loose and wet. I'm trying to keep this PG-13.
I like that you mentioned slop, which is different from slime. I think slop by definition needs to have maybe potato peels and bits of carrot in there. It's got to have like a chicken bone and a banana peel in there. That's okay. Slop is different. That's
hear me out, because we're going to be talking about a lot of different bones and bananas and all sorts of plastic nonsense that ends up in slime. But so yeah, Nickelodeon using You Can't Do That on Television introduced slime, which then became a thing that they used on Double Dare, most notably, right? Like, I think that was everybody's first major introduction to slime on Nickelodeon. Double Dare slime was like everywhere you would get slimed. You would like jump in slime and slide on slime. It was just a very sloppy show.
Yeah, the slime is in the logo.
It's in the logo. It's everywhere. Yeah. And it was in the, the orange background to the Nickelodeon logo was also just like a splat or a gack or a slime, whatever it was, right? So like it was just a very messy channel, and like that was the whole thing, and everybody loved it. It was a good time. And they also introduced it in a show called You Can't Do That on Television, hosted by Summer Sanders, who I believe was like one of my first TV crushes. Shout out to Summer Sanders. And on that show, they would bring like Nickelodeon celebrities who have been making Nickelodeon shows for years, onto like Amanda Bynes and the Pete and Pete's, and bring them on there, and if they got answers wrong, slime them. So yeah, it was a fun thing that you would play with, and also a thing that would punish you. But before all this happened, Mattel created a thing called slime. It was literally just a green plastic bucket, probably about as tall as like a Kenner action figure, and it was just full of slime. And on the bottle it said gooey, drippy, oozy, cold, and clammy. And they did the N with the apostrophe thing, which is very gross. It was mostly made of guar gum and PVA glue. And they went on to put like all sorts of other stuff in it. Like, so Mattel, to my knowledge, was the first company to sell slime as a toy and also be like, hey, what if we put like plastic bugs in here and like little eyeballs and all sorts of weird nonsense like that. After that, slime made its way into pretty much every playset. So while we were watching like Double Dare as kids, slime was also showing up in TMNT as ooze. It was showing up in Ghostbusters as ectoplasm. Like it was popping up everywhere. And so like these things were happening where we were watching slime in cartoons, we were watching it on TV, and live action shows and in movies. And at the same time, it started coming packaged with like a bunch of action figures and toys we had and play sets. And so like, while we both missed the Mattel slime, maybe there was some of it kicking around on the shelves by the time we started buying slime, or getting it as gifts. We eventually got slime because you and I were both toy nerds growing up, as has been well documented on the show.
They're called children.
Yeah, exactly. And we just ended up with tons of slime. The thing, my earliest memories with slime was like getting it with an action figure and immediately getting it on my parents' living room carpet, like immediately. And letting it dry, or just getting as much of it as I could out of it. Because like, I don't know, I have a 6-year-old now. When I say like, hey, clean up your room, there's a certain level of clean that like I just don't really expect to happen, right? And so like when I was a kid, if I dropped slime on a carpet and it got stuck in the grooves and all that, I could pull it out. But if it was bright purple or orange or green or whatever, chances are my mom would come in and find it hardened out and then have to like put some weird vinegar solution or whatever to get it out of the rug, soap, anything you could get. And so, yes, slime has pretty much always been there, but, and we'll get to this in a second, slime is somehow more popular than ever now. Like, it is a massively popular toy. Girls are really into it. But yeah, let's go back in time real quick and talk about some of the earliest slime play sets. From what I could find, one of the first ones ever to do it is, there's this dude named Hordak, and he's a Masters of the Universe He-Man villain. He's mostly like, he's like kind of like She-Ra's Skeletor, right? And he had this thing called the Hordak Horde Slime Pit, which came with a large dinosaur skull that you could fill with slime, and it would just spill out of its teeth and eyes and nose and shit all over a guy's head. So what was cool about this was cool slime. You could put all over your toy. As far as I know, that's like the first time you could have a toy get slimed, like legally, without just taking your own slime you got from Mattel and putting it on top of a toy. But what was weird about this was that a lot of He-Man toys had that fuzzy texture.
Flocking, yeah.
Yeah, flocking. It's called flocking. And it was like this very like soft, fuzzy texture to them. And you see it in a lot of like cheap dollar store toys now and figurines. But a lot of them, they gave this like weird fuzz to. One of them, I believe, Mossman.
Mossman and Stinkor were the two main
yes.
ones. And
yeah,
Mossman smelled like pine trees and Stinkor smelled like an asshole.
Yes, Stinkor was he was like a skunk dude that stunk. But yeah, Mossman had flocking all over him, and it was like this green, just sort of like this shitty like Christmas felt, or like the kind of stuff, you know, those foam blocks that like your mom used to put fake plants in or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what it felt like. And so getting slime on that was horrific because it would just cake up and get stuck and just never come off. And so these guys would have to wear this like, you know, it's like falling in the bog of eternal stench in Labyrinth. Like you just, the rest of your life, it's like, oh, Mark of the Beast. Like, you know, this guy, shame, shame.
Mark of the Beast Man.
Yeah. And then from there, I think the one that I really got into was all the slime that came with Ghostbusters toys. This was totally unsurprising because like Ghostbusters were like some of the slimiest movies and shows. There's literally a character named Slimer. The Ghostbusters 2 is
It's just
like,
about slime.
It's about slime. It's about like playing music for slime and then using it to pilot the Statue of Liberty like a mech. Like the sewers are full of slime. Slime is evil but also good. It bubbles up, all this stuff like that. And it's like, to me, that was sort of like the Blob, right? Was like one of the first like slime based horror movies, and it's been remade a bunch of times. And I saw like one of the, I forget which one I saw first as a kid, but I think it was one of the ones I should not have seen as a kid. But then I saw Ghostbusters 2 and I'm like, oh, this is sort of like the Blob for kids, right? Like this is fun, the Blob. And at the same time, they were like, let's make toys. They were making toys based on the animated series, which is really popular. And they had all these crazy lines of toys with Ghostbusters, which would be fun to do a whole other episode on one day. And they introduced like these little slime canisters that would come with action figures that had ghosts inside them. And they called the slime ectoplasm. And each one of these things had like a little plastic, you know, singular color ghost in it. And it was really fun to go in there and fish them out and, you know, use the ectoplasm to, you know, dump it on Peter Venkman's head or whatever you wanted to do. And then they went on to make play sets of their own. And I think my favorite one was they did this thing called the Gooper Ghost, who was this like, it's disgusting. He's really gross. It was like this big yellowish, almost like a beige, orange, yellowish, teethy, nasty looking dude. And he had a pump inside him. And you would put slime inside of it, and it would do this big bubble, almost like a bullfrog or like a kid blowing bubbles in milk. And if you did it right, you could encase your
oh my lord
Ghostbuster figure.
Okay, so I'm looking at this now.
it.
Gooper Ghost was the name of a line of these things, and there was Green Ghost, and there was Sludge Bucket, and there was Squisher, and Ingluto. Oh wait, that's the Spanish version. Yeah, no, they did all sorts of varieties of these. They're horrible.
It was like a thing they did a lot of. And, you know, that was, I think, my first time thinking like, oh, so slime is not just something that like you can put on things. You can also like blow it up and pump it up and inflate it. And we all knew like the first thing a kid learned, the first thing when they got like a little canister of slime was that if you put your finger in it, it makes a fart noise. Like it just immediately goes like it is a great, it's almost better than a whoopee cushion because it won't, you know, pop under a big butt. Like it'll. I bought a whoopee cushion at a dollar store recently, and we had some of my kids' friends over, and this kid ran in full speed and just like jumped in the air, landed on it, and it just exploded.
It's like full of like powdered latex or whatever.
Oh, it's disgusting in there. Yeah, it's like talcum powder. You know, it's like you're not supposed to be breathing that in. But the sort of like the biggest set piece for anything slime related was the Ghostbusters Firehouse. And I believe this was one of my first like big action figure play sets. It was, I believe, 2 stories. It had an elevator in it and a you know, the fire pole they slide down, all these really cool action features. And one of the coolest things about it was there was a grate on the top floor, where you could put slime and it would just like drip down onto anybody who was dumb enough to park their car down there or stand there or whatever. And I was in New Jersey a couple months ago, and my nephew is 7, and he was like, Uncle Brian, let's go in the attic and see if there's any of your old toys. And I was like, sure, they're probably covered in like mouse shit or whatever, but let's give it a shot. So we went up there and we found like my original Ghostbusters firehouse. And I was like, well, this is awesome. I'm not bringing this to the airport. So I'm not bringing this thing to California. So let's bring it into the kitchen or whatever. We'll clean it up and then it's all yours. And literally yesterday, his dad texted me a picture and he was like, hey, so my son made slime at school and brought it home and put it in the firehouse. Check it out. And he sent me the shot of just like this disgusting, like bluish, blackish, like, but also like kind of shimmery slime, which kids now call galaxy slime. And it's just dripping through the original grates onto the ground. And I'm like, man, that makes me so happy.
That's so
like,
cool.
It's still there. It's still there.
Slime never goes away, whether it's in your mom's carpet or in the collective unconscious of another generation of children. They just love the slime. They can't get enough.
Not a great sentence.
Now my favorite toy with the slime is the TMNT Flushinator playset.
Yes.
Which is like, I've obviously like, you know, I love that Ghostbusters have, like, they have ectoplasm. They have Slimer. It makes sense for them to have slime. The Ninja Turtles have ooze. It makes some sense for them to have slime too. And I mean, that obviously wasn't part of their creation. Like, they were like, oh yeah, toxic ooze. I think that was honestly just a knockoff of the radioactive isotope that gave Daredevil his powers. They were just like, Eastman and Larry were like, yeah, screw it, slime, toxic waste, why not? And fast forward a few years and it's like Playmates is like, yeah, slime, kids love slime, why not?
Yeah.
Let's make the Flushinator playset and scar a few of these kids.
It was actually called the Flush-O-Matic.
Flush-O-Matic.
Yeah, Flush-O-Matic. And it's very funny because I think you're supposed to use it. Is it like a villain playset? Like,
no, it's a villain playset. It's really similar to the He-Man slime pit, which was weird because when I saw the He-Man slime pit for the first time, I was like, oh, that's a ripoff of, you know, the other one.
Right.
No, but the Flush-O-Matic it has this tray that has a large seat belt in it. And the bottom of the tray is full of like one of those wonderful like stickers that has graphics of like fish bones and banana peels and nonsense down there. And then this seat belt, or I guess bondage is a better word for it. You take a Ninja Turtle and you put them in this thing and you strap them into place. And then you put this Flush-O-Matic above them. And on top of it, there's this sort of this large platform, this sort of like plateau, this raised plinth or whatever. And there's a toilet seat on top of it.
Toilet seat.
There's just a toilet, and the idea, I guess, is that you take villains and put them on the toilet seat, or at least that's what my immediate reaction was, because it's a toilet. It looks like some sick fetish device. Like, it's really, really upsetting, and it's all like purple and neon green, which is cool. But I remember just being as a kid, I was like sad because I just imagined, you know, like Raphael getting kidnapped by the Foot Clan and Shredder's like, I will shit on the turtle. And just like dropping trow and dunking out on Raphael's face. That wasn't what they were going for.
No.
They instead were like, oh no, they'll pour ooze on that. The ooze will turn the turtles back into baby turtles, which never made any sense to me. But
no, it didn't make it. But to do it through a toilet seat is just
it came with slime.
It's so unnecessarily cruel. And so, okay, my memory of this, and you probably remember this too, is I always said, or you and I always said that This Thing Rules would be a show where people could jump in wherever, right? But if you listen to the Bloody Mary episode, you might remember the Princess Dog. Princess Dog was a little action figure that Max got in New York at a street fair, where it's really just sort of like a flea market, that impromptu flea market sort of thing that was near the Jacob Javits Center, when we both woke up really hungover and found out that we didn't have to go to work that day. So we
talk about this day more than we should.
Well, no. So you got this little dog, this little princess dog with the crown. And at some point you got the Flush-O-Matic. You had the Flush-O-Matic at work at IGN, and you and I shared a desk. And someone sent us ooze, right? Or slime or gack or whatever it was. We got a box one day, or we ordered it because we're idiots.
All of these things are possible.
I have a picture on my phone of you put the princess dog in the Ninja Turtle Flush-O-Matic and dumped green slime all over her.
Yeah. And guess what didn't come off of that dog is the slime. It's still caked on there. And it just looks like this dog was on, it was first a royal dog and then it was on Double Dare or something. But
yeah.
Yeah.
So I did some research on this. There has been, like, you know, obviously nearly infinite slime adjacent action figures. Almost pretty much every IP that we grew up with got slime. Like Barbie got it recently. There's a Jurassic World one with like a velociraptor just breaking into some slime elevator or whatever.
You know what was a cool one?
Which one?
The Kenner Aliens one from the 90s.
Oh,
was,
yeah.
It was a Queen Alien playset, and you always forget because like usually the Queen playset just is like the body after she like rips off her big egg sac and goes chasing after Ripley.
Yes.
This one included the big egg sac, and then you'd put slime in there and I guess squeeze it, and it would like crap out eggs through its ovipositor or whatever that thing is called. But it was just green slime, which didn't really. I mean, it works with aliens, but you know, the
idea of like putting a bunch of like little plastic things inside of the slime has happened a lot. I found I didn't even know this existed, and we did a whole episode on Jabba the Hutt, but I found this thing called Jabba Glob. Do you know about this?
Oh, yeah, that was episode 1, right?
Yeah, so this came out with the Phantom Menace, and Jabba the Hutt is in the Phantom Menace as like a guy watching the pod race, and at one point, does he spit a frog into like a gong to start the race?
Yeah, he spits a frog into a gong.
Okay.
That's exactly what happens. Yes.
So they were like, how do we make a toy out of that? And instead of just making like a, like some air compressed version of that where you could shoot like a frog ball out, they created this toy called the Jabba Glob, which comes with like a whole thing of green slime and a bunch of little plastic frogs, and you can put them all inside of his head and then squeeze them out, and he just fucking froze up. Basically, he just
That's
goes like,
so great.
"Aw." Like he doesn't actually spit it; he just drools.
I remember seeing piles of those things on clearance at KB Toys in like 2000, 2001. You know, among many other Episode 1 things that people didn't want to buy, and the whole thing there was Return of the Jedi. I think it was too late for the slime craze, or like none of the toys back then were really taking advantage.
Oh, you
of
mean
that.
Episode 1?
No, Return of the Jedi.
Oh, Return of the Jedi, yeah.
83 or whatever. That was before everything got gross and slimy. Like that was I'm guessing pre-Double Dare, or at least pre-Nickelodeon GAC, pre-He-Man slime. They weren't really messing with that, despite the fact that that's the one where Jabba's actually oozing slime out of his mouth.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And then fast forward to Episode 1, and that, again, is sort of post-slime. Like that's after the whole Ninja Turtle craze, Nickelodeon GAC, it all kind of died out.
Right.
So they were sort of late to the party on that. And it was odd because that toy wasn't made to go along with any action figures. Like it wasn't an action figure playset. Not that would have made any sense if it was.
He was just on his own.
It was a standalone toy about making Jabba the Hutt throw up, which again, I regret not buying one at the time, but yeah.
Yeah, like he doesn't throw up on Anakin or, just anybody. He just throws up on himself. He just goes, I ate too many frogs, and throws up on himself. I found another one called Living Skin Slime Pores Venom, which was a Toy Biz Venom action figure, which you and I grew up playing with those. And this one came with this like weird sort of gray spider shaped applicator, and there's a big toy nerd who has like a really cool toy channel, and I've bumped into him at events and stuff like that. His name is Pixel Dan, and he did a whole video where he opened one of these for the first time like a few years ago, and the slime still worked. And he put it inside Venom, and the slime is black. It is black, like jet black ooze, and he's got this little hole on his back that you can open up and fill with this black slime, and then have him shoot this shit all over Spider-Man or whoever you want. And his hadn't dried out, which is good. A lot of slime dries out over time, and this one did not. So shout out to him, and shout out to Toy Biz for introducing the Living Skin Slime Pores Venom. But yeah, there's been infinite toys that have come with this, but I want to talk a little bit about the like most recent explosion of
the slime renaissance.
Yeah, the slime renaissance. So you and I think picked this up anecdotally. We were heading to do one of our old shows in San Francisco, and we were walking around. This is probably like 8 years ago, right? And we were in the inner Richmond, basically, and we were walking past. There's like a whole bunch of Asian restaurants in this neighborhood, and it's like really great neighborhood. We used to always get like lunch or dinner or whatever, and there were like 3 little girls who were probably like the same age as my daughter is now, like 5, 6, 7 or something like that. And they had created like what looked like a little lemonade stand, and it had all these like glitter signs and blah 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 blah. And it was like from a distance you'd be like, oh, these kids are selling like crafts or lemonade or something like that. And we walked up and they were just like, slime for sale. And we were like, wait a minute, like this has been a boys action figure accessory for a whole generation, and now there is a new generation of young kids, mostly girls, who are really into slime. And then I found out they're making it from scratch, and they're taking kits and chemicals, and they're using recipes online, and they're making all of this like girly slime, and it's got glitter in it, it's got sparkles in it, there's galaxy slime,
They made the slime woke.
They made it woke. So yeah, obviously we don't care about that. They are calling it galaxy slime, glitter slime, confetti slime, glimmer crunchy slime, foam slime, jelly cube slime, and a lot more. And there's hundreds of kits on Amazon.
I remember going to a brick and mortar Office Max Staples style store. I had to go get something boring from there, which is what you get there because they don't have anything fun unless you're after slime recipes. Because an entire end cap when this was first blowing up was just like Elmer's and Crayola products that were slime dedicated. PVA glue, the stuff in the original Mattel slime, that's just Elmer's glue. That's what kind of glue that is. So I guess you mix white glue. I remember making oobleck. Did you ever make that stuff? It was a thing that you learn how to make in I don't know, second grade maybe. I think it was just a bootleg Nickelodeon gack, but I remember it involved, I believe, cornstarch and maybe white glue in some capacity. And I remember taking some home, and it wasn't as bright and colorful as the official Nickelodeon gack, but I put some food coloring in it, and it looked kind of cool. And I remember dropping it in the sandbox, and it immediately picked up an entire driveway worth of gravel. Just absorbed a bunch of small rocks, and then it dried really fast. Like it dried out sooner than I was expecting it to, which was disappointing. But it was also like the thing they call this stuff now is like sensory play,
right?
Which I hate because that is just gentrifying slime. That's like, no man, that's not an energy drink. That's a soda. That's not a graphic novel. That's a comic book. That's not sensory play. That's a bucket full of slime. Stop trying to make it sound smart.
It is a very brilliant rebrand of a very old nasty thing, and it's just cool to see. And it's like I suddenly became the dad now who's like, my kid has like 2 or 3 canisters of slime, and they get them as like birthday party goodie bag stuff. They get them as like giveaways at school or prizes or whatever. And she has like 3 different kinds, and she like cherishes them, and they're in the containers. And I'm always like, we have a lot of like carpeting upstairs in our house, and I'm like, don't open that. Only open that on a table or a counter downstairs where there's hardwood floors or whatever. Don't open that anywhere near. And I just became like my mom basically, which is great.
And she's cool. She's cool with that.
She's cool with it.
She takes care of it though.
She takes care of it for now.
I guess that's what's fascinating, and this is obviously applying complete gender stereotypes. But I don't know. You think of I've hung around enough like little girls and enough little boys to notice little boys are typically tornado, Tasmanian devil, agents of chaos, and girls, they develop faster. So maybe they're just like, oh, maybe I shouldn't break the window shades by climbing them or whatever. But it's funny to be like, slime to me, to our generation, was always sort of marketed alongside a level of destruction and chaos, whereas I feel like the way it's marketed in the new Slimeissance is colors,
Yeah. No, girls figured out how to keep it alive longer, and how to not just get it stuck to like a ceiling and have it just disappear forever and then run away. So yeah, girls have taken slime from boys, and they're taking better care of it. So
good.
Run with it, ladies. Like it's yours.
That's awesome. My first exposure to Nickelodeon slime, I realize this is a totally roundabout way. I didn't get Nickelodeon. I didn't get cable until I was 8 or 9.
Okay.
But I was kind of vaguely aware of it. I knew it involved slime, sort of, but never why. And I think we got a little cookbook, or a little activity book. It was some book fair thing. I got it at a yard sale or something, and it was like a Nickelodeon Kid's Guide to Having Fun, or Kid's Guide to Doing Nickelodeon stuff. But it wasn't specifically tied to any particular show or IP. It was just like random sort of goofy Nickelodeon coded activities. And they had a recipe for slime in there. and I think it was just the one that they use on Double Dare, and you can't do that on television.
Right.
But my thought was it was going to be like GAC, which was like the store-bought Nickelodeon slime, which
So
again
it's like
wasn't
sticky, and you can form it into shapes or whatever. Yeah.
And I remember we made it, and it was just deeply disappointing because it's just this. It's like the consistency of a bad smoothie.
Yes.
Like it was like less, not even as thick as chia pudding. It was just really, really wet. It's like a gruel almost. But you know, because Nickelodeon
it
GAC
had like oatmeal in it, right?
Yeah, it was like oatmeal and mayonnaise or something. And I probably had fun with it, but I remember being just sort of deeply underwhelmed because I'd sort of built up in my head that Nickelodeon slime was somehow superior. But yeah, at the time, my first interaction with Nickelodeon anything would have been Nickelodeon GAC,
Right.
which was the 90s kids version of the Mattel slime, I guess. And they sold it in those splat shaped bottles, and they would come. You know what I'm talking about?
Yes, I do. Yeah, it was like these little. It almost looked like a weird shampoo container that melted or something like that.
Yeah,
like
it was sort of like almost a rounded star, like a splat shape. But
Yeah.
then in the center there was a pop off lid, like you'd have on some sort of like Pringles, like one of those pop top kind of things. I'm trying to think what kind of food has that exact thing.
Yeah, no, it's a Pringles for sure.
Yeah, Pringles, caulk, whatever. Like, but the thing that was funny is it would be sold in stores, and it would have very clearly two colors that were sort of marbled together. And I remember the first time I saw it, I was like, "Whoa, that looks so cool! I can't wait to get it." It's gonna all the photos of it. They had it. It looked all rainbowy and all swirly. And then I got it and played with it for about 5 minutes, and of course the colors mixed together, and it became some other color entirely. And
Which is usually brown.
It was just deeply underwhelming. I think mine became like pink or green or something, but I didn't think that buying blue and yellow was going to get me green. I was like, oh, I guess I'll get blue and yellow. But that was fun, and that always came into play with other toys. Like that was like, oh, the turtles are going to really in for it this time. Shredder's going to take a big shit on them.
They made a whole. I mean, they've been making different versions of Nickelodeon slime as like a consumer product for kids to buy. And I found some Gak Vac, which was basically like this suction vacuum cleaner thing that you could pull back, and then it would like spit and fart out slime.
Yeah,
they did a thing. They had a thing called Fart Bucket, but without the A in fart, so it was just like fart bucket. They did Smell My Gak, which was like scented Gak. Gak Copier, which was sort of like Silly Putty. Like Silly Putty feels like it's on the outside of looking in of this conversation. It's like that and Floam. It's like you guys are not allowed.
Silly Putty was invented during World War II. Silly Putty, with all due respect, isn't part of this conversation because Silly Putty was never marketed as a gross thing. It was always an oddity, I suppose. But that was for a generation of children who wouldn't make fart noises in school for fear of getting the belt or what have you. Like that was a completely back then. Being able to take an imprint of the newspaper was probably like pirating a movie. Like, I got reverse Heathcliff. Check it out.
Yeah, like you could take a picture of it, and then just like, or like put it on like a Playboy, and then just carry it to school and show everyone like, hey, look what I got.
Yeah,
a stretched woman. But then they also made Gak Inflator, which was a thing that was, I guess, the opposite of Gak Vac. It would just blow up, and the packaging art on all of this is just like wonderfully Nickelodeon. Like they're either like horrible photoshops or they're just like weird, disgusting paintings of like kids inflating Gak and it exploding or taking over the world or whatever. And so like, yeah, it's always been a thing. You watched me get Nickelodeon slimed in real life in 2016 at San Diego Comic-Con, where they did a thing where they invited a bunch of fans and some press to participate in a scaled down recreated version of Double Dare.
I like to think that they sent that out to like leading members of the press. They're like hitting up Anderson Cooper and Rachel Maddow.
And he's like, what are you
well,
talking about?
Would you like to be a part of this children's game show? And they were like, no. And then they like sent it to IGN.
Yeah, he's like covering a war. And I'm like, I'm not going to that. So I'll handle this. And they broke it down to a blue team and a red team. And I did all sorts of various nonsense that day. There's just psychotic pictures on my phone. One of them is me. I'm wearing like a baby bonnet and I got like a pie to the face. Another is I'm sliding down I forget the name of it. The slide that has like the tubes that you go through, those big like, and then you have to grab the orange flag at the end of it. And at the end, our team won, and Mark Summers, who was the host of Double Dare, hosted this. And I believe they live streamed it, and a bunch of the cast from All That was there. It was completely surreal. Like, it was one of those things where I walked off and was almost like, hey, so am I dying? Like, was this, did you guys do this because I have a terminal disease? Like, and this is what, you put this all, is this like the opposite of an intervention? Like, so Mark Summers was there. He was incredibly sweet. And they gave us the option at the end, like, hey, so we do have, like a couple of buckets of Nickelodeon slime. Do you want to sit in the chair and get slimed? And I don't remember if he did it specifically or if he was standing right near it, but he was within a few feet of this. And I was like, well, I have to do it. And they went and took this gigantic bucket of green Nickelodeon slime. And I think it was the recipe that you were talking about, because it felt like, it didn't feel like gack. It didn't feel like ooze or ectoplasm or any of that stuff. It just felt like a thick milkshake that someone just poured all over me. And it was kind of stringy and a little creamy, and it was disgusting. It was just so gross. And what was horrible about it is that it's very clearly not supposed to stay anywhere near human body temperature for prolonged periods of time. And they dumped it all over me. It got into my ears and my neck and like my nose, my eyebrows. It was in my shoes and socks. Like, it got in fucking everything. Just every inch of my body, like my pockets and shit like that. And this shoot happened at what is like it's basically like a nightclub. So they just had like, they're not going to have like a shower or whatever back there, but they just had like, I went into the men's room afterwards, everybody cleared out, and I'm like, well, I better clean up. And I just went into a regular men's room wearing like this Double Dare t-shirt that was just like covered in shit and just fucking whipped cream and slime. Like, I don't even know if it was just, if it smelled bad from just the slime, because there was just so much like Nickelodeon liquids and solids all over me. And I went in there and just like used paper towels and sink water to get all of it off of my face and out of my crevices and my ears.
Better than using toilet water, I guess.
Yes, it was disgusting. And you and I went to dinner afterwards and went out and got some drinks, and I had to change of clothes, or I guess I put the clothes on that I had changed, whatever it was. Maybe they told us like, bring a change of clothes. And I remember sitting there and being like, I feel disgusting. Like, I feel I can smell like milk around my face. Like, I need to get this out of here. But at the end of the day, like, it was something I just couldn't say no to. Like, how can you say no to getting slimed in front of the Double Dare, the Mark Summers, like the host of, like, I had to. I just had to. And so, yeah, now I have all these psychotic pictures on my phone that every now and then my phone will do that thing. Will just be like, San Diego memories. And the first picture is this picture you got of me, where the slime is just completely covering my face. And I'm bald, so it didn't get stuck in my hair or anything. It just immediately just like coated me. So I look like a green blue man group. It's just disgusting.
It looks Cronenbergian.
Yeah. And so like this picture, every now and then they'll just play some like cheesy iPhone song, and the cover image is just me like,
I love that.
It's great. So yeah, get slimed if you can. If you ever have the opportunity to get some slime. One fact I did find was that in 2018, dozens of companies were making slime and selling them on Amazon, and there was like no regulations or anything, right? Like, that's, you can just, so it was reported that 8 out of 11 companies selling slime, or brands of slime being sold at the time, contained a chemical called borax, which in high quantities can cause vomiting, cramps, and diarrhea. And there was a debate on whether or not there was enough borax in the slime, so like handling it and playing with it and whatever you would do with it, whether or not that would cause you to start getting like itchy and pukey and shitting everywhere. So if that happened to you, I guess call a lawyer. I don't know. It's been like 6 years, so you're probably in a lot of trouble.
I do love the bootleg slime. Like the Nickelodeon gack and the ooze and anything that's associated with some slime adjacent intellectual property. That's great and all. But you get those the ones from the supermarket gashapon machines.
Oh yeah,
where you get the little the American little capsule toy, and it would come out and it would just be a little egg that's just full of slime, and they would come in different colors, and it was I think that was a crappier quality version of the Mattel slime.
Yeah,
but it was somebody's job probably to have like a big vat and just scoop up a little bit and put it in a jar.
And they just go home and they can't get that plasticky smell off of their hands.
I love how the goal there is like, hey, parents, would you like to pay 25 cents to calm your kid down, but also ruin your car's resale value by messing up the upholstery? Because we have the product for you.
Oh man, I'm almost sure I got that at a supermarket as a kid and got it stuck to like the carpet of the floor on the car, or like underneath a car seat or something like that.
Totally. The one I like nowadays is oddly, it's been around a while. Like you still see it everywhere, and it's called Jaru Flarp Noise Putty. Have you seen this?
Ja Rule?
Well, Jaru is the company, which is
not
odd.
Ja Rule the rapper.
The thing is, I just typed it in. I just typed in noise putty, and the results are very funny because first of all, it's a little tub, about the size of a kid's yogurt or whatever, and it says Flarp in big letters, and then it says noise putty, which it's fart putty, like it's supposed to make fart noises, but it's odd to just be like noise putty. And then the funny thing is, if you type that in, another product it recommends is quiet putty, which is heavy duty acoustic putty for like blocking out noises. So you've got one kind of putty you can use to make fart noises, and you've got another kind of putty you can use to put on your windowsill so you don't have to hear your neighbor's kids making fart noises with their putty outside.
Oh my god, that is kind of amazing.
But like, I don't know, that there's something so censored for TV movie as calling it like noise putty.
Yeah. No, I found a recent line of action figures called Heroes of Gujitsu. Have you seen this?
No, I love it though.
So these guys are basically these like very hideous sort of like puffy karate dinosaurs, and you can just pump them full of all sorts of slime and like plastic bones and fish and trash and shit like that. And so you can make your own. You can buy them with the slime inside, and I think the slime inside, some of them is sort of like the stuff they put in like Stretch Armstrong, so it's like Squand or whatever. But they also make ones where you can pump them with your own slime, and you get different buckets.
That way.
I don't like that. I don't like that at all. But I think the funniest one I found was the DC Super Friends Oozing Clayface and Robin set, because it's a big Clayface toy and a small Robin, and the Clayface is throwing you pump him full of slime, and he throws up all over Robin, who is like I don't know, an orphan kid. It's like
That's
a grown
horrible.
man theater actor.
I love that he's like, screw this, Batman, I quit, I'm moving to Bloodhaven, I'm changing my name, I can't do this anymore. That's also not what Clayface does. Like, he'll throw parts of his body at people to like incapacitate them, but he doesn't just throw up clear if Clayface is throwing up translucent slime, he needs to go see a doctor at Arkham.
Right. Yeah,
he's not well.
Yeah, it's nasty. But yeah, I just felt bad for all parties involved in that one. I was like, what? Why did you have to do that to him? But yeah, those are just a few of the like great slimes out there. There are so many that it is basically impossible to list them all, because, like I said before, pretty much every major action figure line or toy line or IP got some sort of like slime adjacent or slime specific action figure at one point, and I think that's awesome.
We got one I want to touch on real quick.
Let's do it.
Cozy Bear, who's a friend of the show, big help behind the scenes, big part of our Discord.
Shout out to Cozy Bear.
Cozy Bear, you're wonderful. He says, as a child, I was terrified / fixated on the green slime that would drip downwards during the credits of the Goosebumps TV show.
Oh yeah,
that's Monster Blood.
Yeah,
Monster Blood was like the first Goosebumps. Oh, no, maybe it was Welcome to Monster House or something. Anyway, it was one of the earlier ones that they got a bunch of sequels. But I love that R.L. Stine basically tapped into that popularity of goo. And I believe I haven't read a Goosebumps book in several decades, because why would I do that? But Monster Blood, I think, was like a popular toy that turned out to be evil or something along those lines. I want to say that's what it was. But yeah, I mean, that's one of the better logos for things that's dripping. But homework assignment for everybody listening at home: go pull up that Goosebumps TV show intro because it slaps. It is such a good song.
Yeah. And pull up your favorite action figure commercial from the 90s or the 80s because chances are there's some slime in there. And if you have a favorite slime or a favorite slime toy or a favorite slime memory that is PG or PG-13 at most, or G, let us know in our Patreon because we want to hear about slime. We're always talking about slime.
Yeah, and whatever you do, don't go on YouTube and Google the commercial for the Oozinator gun. You don't need to look that video up.
Yeah. Didn't we get one of those?
Yeah.
Okay. Enough said. That was the Super Soaker gun that shot slime, right?
Slime is generous.
Quotes. Okay.
I would call it Icor, perhaps.
Mm-hmm.
It was Lovecraftian. It was definitely too biological looking to be like they really should have put some food coloring in there or something because it didn't look good.
Oh, wait, hold up. One more thing. Before we go, just a very friendly reminder / desperate plea for all of our listeners to support the show however you can.
Each and every single like, share, subscribe, rating, review, follow, favorite, bookmark, upvote, and comment we receive helps us grow our audience.
Even a good up dog helps us out.
Every single little tidbit of organic interaction we get helps convince those cold, unfeeling algorithms that this show is actually worth anyone's time.
Good old-fashioned word of mouth works too, so if you think this show rules, tell people about it. Tell your friends.
Friends, lovers, strangers, enemies, whoever.
And of course, we might have mentioned kicking us $1 or $2 on Patreon is huge. Also has some really cool perks.
For instance, $1 a month gets access to bonus content. $5 gets you each week's episode on Tuesdays instead of Fridays.
And for a few dollars more, you can help decide the good, bad, and ugly topics for future episodes.
Head to patreon.com/thisthingrules to see for yourself. However you support the show, even if it's just making time to listen to us talk about our favorite stuff, you rule, and we love you for it. We'll see you next week. Or we'll hear you next week. Or you hear us.
You'll hear us.
We'll talk to you later.
Next week.
And last but not least, a big, huge special thanks to our Patreon executive producers for helping keep the lights on. Brennan Bova, Ben Burkhalter, Kevin Lemasurier, Steve Cam, Donald Cole, Billy McKendry, Chip Chunkling, Scott Davis, and Go-Go Jason Waterfalls. You are all fantastic. You rule. Thank you.
What do you call the new water and ooze blasting oozinator?
Oh, yeah! Bleh! Gross! Oh, ew! Disgusting!